Hey, it's Curly and welcome back to another Dear Days video. It's been a good long while since I've actually done one of these, partly because I don't really know what's going to happen with Dear Days going further, but I also wanted to wait till I can do a video with Avantgarda using the Sam skin, which we've had for a while, but I just haven't done a video for it. Here's a list. Let's jump into the fight. So yeah, I've wanted to do a video on Avantgarda for a good long while, ever since set 9. I was going to do another one again in set 10 when it got more support. The reason I haven't done it was because there was actually a delay in set 9 when that came out for the Sam character skin. And I was waiting a very long time for that to come out. I was really hyped to start doing videos on Unica and on Avantgarda because I really like both of those decks, but I wasn't really playing as much Vanguard around that time, so I wanted to, you know, enjoy them in Dear Days. And then what ended up happening was they eventually did get released, and then by then I was like, well, I might as well wait for set 10. Then set 10 rolled along, and we got Anne Hathaway here, our blue Death Star Hannah Halfway. And this card was bugged for a good long while until they updated it. So this card has a skill that says on place, if you have a blue Death Star Vanguard, you can counterblast one, draw one card. All my ride line is blue Death Star, but what would happen is it would just not work because it was coded in some sort of way where the name wasn't checking it correctly. Thankfully, they finally fixed that. And then after that, I've just been in this weird sort of limbo where I just don't know what's happening with Dear Days, so I'm kind of not so much inclined or motivated to actually make any content on it, or even so much play it, to be honest. So we're still going to do this video here finally with Avantgarda. You can see here I discarded the Freiheit, which is pretty important because I drew into a Persona Ride. I only use Freiheit to get my Persona Ride. I don't use products or anything like that, but once I have Persona Ride, or, you know, I kind of match it one-to-one, copies of Freiheit to Persona Ride. Once I have that, Freiheit's kind of useless. We're going to go ahead and use this strategy card here, which is what Avantgarda focuses on to play it in the order zone. And now that I have it in the order zone and this card is not bugged, I can counterblast one here with my blue Death Star Vanguard to draw one card, which is pretty nice, into another Persona Ride, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to go swing in here. Since I have a strategy card and it's in a center column, it's going to get, since the strategy card was put into the order zone this turn specifically, and I have a blue Death Star Vanguard, and it's in the center column, it's going to get 2k and counter charge, which is one of the amazing things about Anne Hathaway, which is, makes it one of the best additions to the deck since set 10 here. I'm going to draw into, or check into another Persona Ride, so I have all my Persona Rides, which is very good because this deck needs its Persona Rides to function, because Avantgarda has one skill. So this is blue Death Star Sky Render Avantgarda. It says if your soul has a blue Death Star Sora period, we'll get back to that in a second, put a strategy card from your order zone into soul, draw one and get 5k. Then this unit gets the ability where at the end of the battle that it attacked, if the attack either hit or you Persona roll this turn, you can counterblast one this card to restand it with -1 drive. So it is a restanding Vanguard deck. A lot of people sort of compared this to Blau's when it first came out because it's in that same family in Brancade. They actually threw down the Zero here, which is kind of interesting because they have Aurora, so they can actually use the skill. So that was interesting. But the whole deck revolves around using these strategy cards to go into your order zone and then into the Vanguard's soul, so that the Vanguard can then restand. But then the strategy cards themselves also have skills that say when they're put into the soul by the ability of your Vanguard, they then give you another effect. So the grade 1 that I just played here is the like death strategy or something like that, kill shroud, disruption strategy kill shroud, which just says when it goes to soul from your Vanguard's ability from order zone, actually it doesn't have to be from your Vanguard's ability, so it's kind of interesting if they release some sort of cards that let you put strategies into soul in the future, not from Avantgarda's skill. But it says if this happens, you can retire one of your opponent's rear guard and then give your Vanguard plus 5k. The grade 2 that we're about to add here is going to let us give Avantgarda plus 10k, and also make it so that our opponent cannot, we can actually discard this here. It's fine, we can get it back. Make it so your opponent cannot intercept or use blitz orders. And the grade 1 and the grade 2 of the ride line, whenever they're rolled upon, they allow you to search out their respective order, which is pretty sick. So we're going to get the grade 2 here. Since our opponent is not on grade 3, we're not going to play the grade 3 one that we just discarded. We're going to play the grade 2 here, which is the dusting, which is what I just said. We'll use the skill here of Avantgarda here to put the dusting into soul. We don't really want to retire, it's fine. We're going to go ahead and draw 1 to get the ability that when we hit this turn, because we didn't Persona Ride, we can restand. Then dusting is going to activate here since it was put into soul from the order zone to give Avantgarda another 10k and close out blitz orders and intercepts this turn. The main key pieces for this card, which came in really late in English, but thankfully came right on time for Dudes, is the Ala de Genta here, who says she, on place, if you put a strategy into your soul this turn, you can soul blast, search your deck, or drop for a card with a different name that's a strategy than the one that was put into soul this turn and add it to your hand. So this allows you to very easily get your extra strategy cards. You never want to soul blast out the Sora period for all these effects, because the Sora period is actually the pilot for Avantgarda, which is a really nice little touch of flavor that the team added into this deck, because if you don't have Sora period in your soul, if you remember from Avantgarda's skill, you actually can't use its skill. So it sort of works in a sense where he's actually in the mech controlling it, and when he's not in soul in the mech, you just can't do anything. So we want the first attack to hit here, so we're actually going to swing in with our booster here. The booster can, of course, countercharge, so it makes more sense to swing with it unboosted first and then swing it boosted so you can countercharge, since I have, you know, all cards in my damage face up. But we want to make this attack as big as possible to either force them to guard with massive amounts of card, use a PG, not the Blitz order, or just take the attack. So unfortunately, they are going to guard the attack, which is, you know, very smart, because then I can't restand here. But using a PG very early is also pretty damning, especially considering that they discarded the heal trigger, which means they're going to be a little bit low on shield. They did manage to get a crit and hit us pretty hard here, but we're going to be able to heal out 1 damage here, which is very good, because it also gives us a lot more defensive value in hand. And we're going to get a Fright Height, which is actually kind of useless, because we have all our Persona Rides in hand, but we can go ahead and discard him for the skill or guard with him. Discard for the skill Avantgarda or use him to guard. Ala de Genta is also great because she has the skill that says whenever your Vanguard attacks, she gets plus 5k. And since, you know, he can attack twice per turn, she gets plus 10k, which makes her 20k, you know, which is pretty solid if your Avantgarda restands. But then she also works really well with the Death Winds that she adds to your hand here, that she added to my hand specifically last turn. The Death Wind says when it's put into soul, for the rest of your turn, your Vanguard gets the ability that when it attacks, your front row units get plus 5k power. But you can only use it if your opponent's on grade 3 or greater. So I couldn't use it this turn. But that means that the Gento can go up to plus 20k, right? Because if you attack with Vanguard twice, she gets 5 from her own skill, and then 5 from the Death Wind twice, for a total of 20. And plus Persona Ride puts her at a total of 40k power. And that's kind of what you want to do with this deck, honestly, is you want to just hit your Persona Rides as much as you possibly can, use the skills of the Gentle to boost them up, and then just swing 4 attacks, and you tend to have a pretty decent little hand here, so you don't have to worry about too much. We're going to go ahead and guard with the Fright Height to make this a true to pass, because even though they probably wouldn't have put it, if they got the trigger, they probably would have put a trigger on the Gnosala back here. Because Gnosala, of course, has this skill where it can counterblast 1 if it attacks in the back row to give its power to something else. So we're going to have to deal with a 15k from here, which is going to get bounced to this 10k column, making this 25k. But we can guard both of these attacks. Actually, we'll take the Gnosala swing here, maybe hit another draw trigger, get a little bit of extra cards in hand, but also close out their heals for next turn, since they are at 3 damage and we're at 4. let's go ahead and take this hit here, which is going to push us at 4, and I was going to say hopefully we don't lose something like the overtrigger, but that is what's going to happen. That is very awkward because I'm going to put power here, and they're going to go and swing into our Avantgarda, and I can't really block it because it's exactly 25 with this trigger. I played... So that was awkward, I guess. I was gonna say, I play this grade 2 here as a backup because he sort of works as a pseudo Avantgarda, except he doesn't search out your strategies. But this just says if you have Avantgarda, this gets 5k power, and if you put a strategy in your order zone, he gets from your order zone into Soul, gets another 5k power. So he's a 20k attacker. So he's comparable to the Gento, since she tends to get retired and it's really your only main form for offense. I play 4 of this. But here's the build. We play, of course, 4 Persona Rides. We want to Persona Ride as much as possible. To do so, we play 3 of the Fright Heights, 1 for each copy of Persona Ride in my deck. Once I see a Persona Ride, I get rid of a Fright Height. So basically, they're interchangeable. Fright Height has the skill where, on place, if you have an order zone, if you have an order in your order zone, you can counterblast 1 discard, search your deck for either a card with the same name as your Vanguard, or if you have Welstra, a product specifically, but then if you have Welstra, you can play it. But the only part that matters is you counterblast 1 discard, search your deck for a card with the same name as your Vanguard. So we search for Persona Ride. But we can't use any of his other skills, so as soon as we see this and he doesn't get any power, we discard him. We're playing 2 of the Lion Age Dragon, which is actually a Persona Ride Cycler, Enabler, not Enabler, Persona Ride, I don't know what they actually call them, but the cards that get effects based on your Persona Rides that are generic that can be used in any deck. This is actually from set 9. Has a really nifty skill where if you Persona Ride, you Soul Blast, discard 1, he gets 5k. Then you choose 1 card, 1 set order from your drop, add it to your hand, and then you choose another one with a different name from your drop, add it to your hand also. So this, you can very easily discard a strategy card, Soul Blast, a strategy card you use last turn, to then add 2 strategy cards back to your hand. Whether you end up using that to play that strategy that turn or just discarding it for your Avantgarda skill, it's really good just for you to be able to get your order cards. This list is pretty standard and is mainly just focusing on consistently getting all of the pieces and everything that you need for the deck to go off. We went over this, we went over these strategies. This just says when it goes to Soul, for Order Zone, your Vanguard gets the ability to give 5k power to all your frontline units, including itself, but only if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. This one says your Vanguard gets plus 10k, but your opponent cannot intercept or use Blitz orders. And this one here, it says you retire and give your Vanguard plus 5k. We never really use this, to be honest, not until we get Richter later on that we really make use of the kill shot. So it's kind of just there to have a set order in the order zone, so stuff like Fright Height can actually go off, and other stuff that requires you to have a card in the order zone. But we just play it to thin out our deck from the grade 1, who just says on ride, search your deck for one grade 1 strategy card. Same thing with the grade 2. They both have the skill that say if you don't, you can call them out to rear if you want to as well. You can also choose, I think, not to search and then call them out. So we're going to play 2 of the grade 2 because we really only want to use it once and then switch to the grade 3 to like finish off our opponent after that. But, you know, if this goes to damage, it's kind of whatever, but if like we don't get to play the grade 2, it's pretty rough. So we play 2 of these in case one of them goes to damage, and it's kind of hard to search it out. We play 3 Avantgarda. He just gets 5k if your Avantgarda attacks. And if a strategy was put into your Soul, you Soul Blast 1, search your deck or drop for a strategy card with a different name than the one that was put into your Soul, and add it to your hand. We of course play the PGs here that just say when you guard with them, you can basically nullify an attack, but if you have 2 or more cards in your hand, you have to discard. If you have 1 or less, you don't. Then a new card from set 10 here is the Anne Hathaway, which is what I keep calling him, but it's really the Blue Death Star Hannah Hathaway, who just says on place, if you have a Blue Death Star, CB1, draw 1. And then when it boosts, if your strategy was put into the order zone this turn, it gets 2k, and also if it's in the center column, it gets a counter charge. So this is the only grade 1 we play in the deck. You can make space, but frankly, it doesn't really have any good grade 1 boosters. So really, it's just if I don't see Anna Hathaway, it's fine. My front row gets a lot of power. For the trigger lineup, we're playing 4 draw, 7 crit, just because there's not really an insane way to plus outside from adding orders to your hand, which isn't really much. So we're using that to sort of, again, pump up the consistency. You can very much switch this out for the fronts, which gives you more shield value and makes your attacks a lot more lethal, actually. I'm playing 4 instead of 3 because, you know, we're playing the Blanket Overtrigger, which is basically a crit, like 3 crits in 1 if you manage to activate it. And you want to play crits because you're restanding Vanguard, you want them to restand with the crit pressure. And then we're playing just 1 of the Elementar. You can only play 1 of these, counts as a PG. You can only play 4 Sentinels in your deck or PGs in your deck. But if your opponent has triple drive, you don't have to discard. And that's it. Normal heals because they're normal heals. Let's try and do another fight. Okay, so we've got another game here. Finally, after queuing up for like an hour, managed to go first again, but we do get to Persona Ride here. So now that we Persona Ride, you know, our front row gets the 10k power, and also since we went first and our opponent's now finally grade 3, I get to activate the Death Wings here from my hand. Then use the skill of Avantgarda here to put that into my soul. And then now I draw a card. Fortunately, I drew into Overtrigger from Persona Ride, and then crit just now from the Avantgarda skill. But from now, going further, whenever Avantgarda attacks, my front row gets an additional 5k power. We're going to go ahead and throw down the Anne Hathaway here to counterblast 1 and draw 1 because we have a bunch of open CB here. Unfortunately, we don't have any other boosters, but we have some decent shield value. So we're just going to go ahead and enter the main phase, go into the battle phase, swing in here for 28 unboosted, just so that we can boost again and have a bigger attack the second time with the, you know, smaller amount of drive checks. I never know what the better way to go about that is, to be honest with you. If it's better to go bigger the first time or go bigger the second time. But typically for Avantgarda, sometimes you have the open counterblast, so you typically want to swing Vanguard unboosted, then boost with that Anne Hathaway to go ahead and countercharge. But in this case, it won't matter because we're going to hit a heal trigger. Avantgarda is going to be pretty big, so we're going to go ahead and give power to the left of the Gentle, so all of our attacks actually hit for 40 right now. We're actually going to hit a critical trigger, which is insanely good here, because now we can actually re-stand with that. However, I know they checked a PG last turn, so we're actually going to go ahead and give power to our other Aladdin Gentle. So this is going to be 50 and then 60 on this side. So they're going to be forced to PG the Avantgarda swing, because I can very easily check. Actually, no, they're at 2. So they can very easily lose if they don't PG this, and then they have to deal with my other 2 big swings here, which they're gonna have to guard. With 8 cards after the fact that they used up the PG, bringing them down to 6, it might be a tall order. But we'll see how this works out for our opponent. We're gonna go ahead and discard one of these Great Chews that we have in our hand, because right now we don't have to worry about all the Gentles getting retired. We're going to go ahead and swing in with 41 here, and an additional critical. It's going to go up to 43 thanks to the Anne Hathaway. Then we're going to go ahead and use everyone else's skill to, you know, pump them up, pump them up here. So they're each going to get 10k total now, my front row. Or at least my front row rear guards, I should say. And they're going to hit in for a lot, so they're each like 3 or something cards to guard. So we'll see if they have at least 2 PGs in hand here. I think that's the only way they can really get through this, or if their entire hand is triggers. They're going to go ahead and discard a Bokusho here. And let's see what our drive check is. If I nailed like a front or something, that would have been pretty huge, but I don't think it really would have mattered. Especially because they didn't hit like a defensive or anything like that. So let's go ahead and swing in here. I think it might make more sense to do this in this type of situation, because they might have been able to guard this attack. But then if I swing in here, like they might have been able to try and guard this, PG this because it's a lot bigger, but if I go with the bigger attack, then they will be forced to, yeah, like take it or something like that, or not have enough after they try and guard it. But since they're at 4, I always try to think of that, but then they're always at 4 damage, so it doesn't really matter. They're going to go ahead and not check a defensive again. They're playing the Time Giant Dragon, which is an interesting choice, but they're going to hit the not defensive here, and then they're going to use their whole hand, almost half their hand here, to guard for 58. So they could never have guarded this attack. So I did... I don't know if I actually misplayed, because they very easily could have guarded early and then taken this, but because they would have needed an extra card for actually the right to Gentle. But Let's see here if they can actually get the 4 rear guards. I'm so used to green on masked. I don't remember what the original green on does. It is 4 rear guards, sorry. So they do have the, I think they need like a specific amount of card. No, they have to Soul Blast too, that's what it is. So they're gonna Soul Blast 1, get out the Ghoulmon, who they use turn 1, but I managed to have the Blitz Order. I do not have the Blitz Order here. So that's gonna be a bit rough, but it'll be fine. They're gonna put something to Soul here, the PG, and then they're gonna call down a critical trigger. So we basically just have to not die here. We can do that somewhat easily here, as long as they don't check their overtrigger and another critical. But I believe they guarded, if I remember correctly, they used their overtrigger turn 2 to guard. Or turn 3, my first turn 3 turn, I should say, to guard, yeah, to guard my first Avantgarda swing. So that's not going to break through that, and then I can very easily PG, discard, and then put in another card to fulfill the requirement for Ghoulmon, who says when your opponent is to guard, if they're greater than greater, and this is put by the skill of your Vanguard into Soul, you counterblast 1, and your opponent must guard with 2 more cards if they were to call cards from hand to guard. Which is typically annoying because when you try to PG, you not only have to discard, but then you have to put down an extra card as well. So we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and guard with these 2, and then use the PG. We're going to discard the grade 2 strategy order because we have another Death Wings in hand, and we'll just end up using that. They're actually going to just check a Gun Ram and a Incan. So the game is essentially won for us here, because we know they only had 1 card in hand before the drive check, which at most was a PG, but everything else we know is I think just a crit, some other units that I don't remember specifically off the top of my head. I could have called final turn here, but it's fine. We're just gonna go ahead and Persona Ride into Avantgarda, immediately throw down the Death Wings, Death Wings would probably sound a lot better. Then go ahead and use the skill Avantgarda, put it to Soul, draw 1 card. We're going to get the skill here that when our Vanguard attacks, our front row units get 5 power. We can actually get a full board here thanks to this Anne Hathaway here. So we can counterblast 1, draw 1 into another Persona Ride. So if they somehow hit a heal or something after this, we are good to go. We're going to go ahead and not boost here for 28. And then go ahead and pump up our pump up our front row with their skills here, the Gentle and also the Avantgarda skill granted to it by the Death Winds. Not wings, winds. So it's like a really nasty fart that Avantgarda throws out here. They're gonna go ahead and no guard this, which is probably their best bet. Try and hit a heal trigger and hope I do not hit a critical trigger, which I might not have a lot left in deck. So let's see if this plays out for our opponent. I was gonna say their opponent, but I'm their opponent. As we go ahead and hit. Now let's see if they manage to get the heal trigger here. They do not. So that is going to be the game, and as well as the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. But until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Play Vanguard and have yourselves a damn good one.